I woke up at exactly 3 a.m. Not 2:59, not 3:01, 3, sharp, 0, 0. And I heard it. Footsteps. At first, I thought it was a dream. You know that strange half-awake moment when your mind hasn't decided if it's real or not? But then, it came again. Step, 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 slow, heavy. Like something, or someone, was walking through my hallway. I remember holding my breath. My heart started pounding so loud, I could actually hear it, like a drum, echoing in my ears. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Maybe the pipes, maybe the wind, maybe the house is just settling. But my body knew better. My skin went cold, my muscles locked up, and I felt that presence. Have you ever gotten that feeling that someone's standing just behind you? You don't see them, you don't hear them, but you feel them. That was it. Something was in my house, and I was completely alone. The clock on my nightstand glowed in red. 3 a.m. They call it the devil's hour, the time when the barrier between our world and theirs is the weakest. I didn't believe in that kind of stuff before that night, but I do now, because when I got out of bed to check the hallway, the footsteps stopped. Everything went dead silent, like the house was holding its breath, waiting for me to move. I whispered to myself, "It's nothing, just go back to sleep." But deep down, I knew I wasn't alone. Something was watching me, listening. And with every second that passed, the silence got heavier, thicker, until I could almost hear it breathing. Whatever was walking in my house, it wasn't human. And tonight, I'll tell you what happened next. But to understand what really happened that night, I need to take you deeper into the house itself. The house was old, not haunted, not cursed, just old. The kind of place that creaks when you breathe and whispers when you move. I moved in 3 weeks before that night. A quiet street on the edge of town, surrounded by trees that groaned in the wind. The kind of place where silence isn't peace, it's pressure. At first, I thought it had character. The old wallpaper, the uneven floors, the smell of worn wood and time. But as the nights passed, I started noticing things. Little things. The smell of damp carpet that never went away. The faint scent of smoke, even though I didn't have a fireplace. And the sounds, the ones you can't quite explain. A faint drip somewhere in the pipes. The window rattles when there's no wind. And footsteps, soft, uneven, that stopped whenever I listened too hard. I told myself it was the house adjusting. I told myself it was normal. But my body, it didn't believe me. Every night around midnight, I'd start to feel it. That invisible weight pressing down on the air, making it harder to breathe. It wasn't fear, not yet. It was something else, like the house was awake. There was one hallway I avoided. It stretched from the living room to the guest room, long, narrow, with no windows. The walls there always felt damp, as if the air itself was rotting. When you walked through it, the shadows clung to you. Even with the lights on, it felt dark. And at the end of that hallway, there was a door. A door that didn't match the others. Old, chipped paint. The handle was cold, like metal that hadn't been touched in years. I never opened it, not because I couldn't, but because every time I tried, I heard something behind it. A faint scraping sound, like nails dragging slowly across the floor. I told myself I was imagining things. Those old houses have stories in their walls. You just have to ignore them. But that night, at 3 a.m., ignoring wasn't an option anymore. When I walked out of my bedroom, the air was cold, unnaturally cold. My breath hung in front of me, fogging the air. The hallway lights flickered, struggling to stay alive. Shadows stretched long, reaching across the floor like fingers. Each step I took made the floorboards moan. The sound didn't echo. It followed. The house felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls were inching closer with every breath. And yet, Nothing moved. Nothing visible, at least. I remember whispering to myself, "It's just the house, just the house." But my heartbeat betrayed me, racing, pounding in my ears like it was trying to drown out something else. The whisper came first, faint, breathy, like someone exhaling my name. Then, the smell, that same smoke, stronger now. It seeped through the hallway, burning the back of my throat. Something was awake. The air felt charged, heavy, like the moment before lightning strikes. The shadows on the walls started to move. Not flicker, move. Slow, deliberate. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to run back to my room, to lock the door, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. But I couldn't. I just stood there, listening. And then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The footsteps weren't coming from downstairs. They were coming from behind that old door. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at that door. It could have been seconds or hours. The only thing I remember clearly was the sound of breathing on the other side. Slow, wet, ragged, like something trying to remember how to be alive. That's when I realized the house wasn't sleeping. It was listening. The first few nights in that house were quiet. Too quiet, maybe. You know how it feels when silence is too perfect, like the air itself is waiting for something to break it? That's how it was. Every night, 3 a.m. would pass, and I'd hear nothing. No wind, no dogs barking, just my own breath echoing in my ears. Then came the third night. It started with a single step. I froze, listening. The floorboards in that hallway were old. They creaked with every footfall. And that sound, that wasn't the house shifting. That was someone moving. Step, pause, step. It was slow, deliberate, like someone trying not to wake me, but wanting me to hear them. My heart started pounding so hard it drowned out the sound itself. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, but the moment I did, the footsteps stopped. For a long minute, there was nothing. Then, 3 soft knocks, right outside my bedroom door. I told myself it was the pipes. Old houses make sounds, right? That's what every article says. That's what every rational person tells themselves. But pipes don't knock, and they definitely don't breathe. Because that's what I heard next, just beneath the door. A slow, heavy breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Like someone was kneeling on the other side of the door, listening. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't even move. The only thing I could do was stare at the thin line of light under the door. And then, something passed by. A shadow. It blocked the light for just a second. But I saw it. It wasn't mine. I remember whispering, "Who's there?" My voice came out shaking. No response. Just silence again. Then, another step. This time, inside my room. I swung the flashlight toward the sound, but the beam flickered, glitched, and died. And in that second of total darkness, I swear I felt it. A cold hand brushes my shoulder. I turned the light back on. Nothing there. But my blanket was on the floor. And the window? Wide open. The night outside was pitch black. No moon, just the sound of the trees scratching against the glass. I locked the window, turned the lights on, and didn't sleep the rest of that night. But it didn't end there. The next night, it happened again. 3:07 a.m. This time, it started with whispering. Not words, just sounds. Like someone trying to remember how to speak. And I could feel it, right next to my ear. That same breath, that same freezing presence. Then my phone lit up on the nightstand. Notification, motion detected in hallway. I stared at the live camera feed. And what I saw, I'll never forget. Someone was standing halfway down the hall. No face, no features, just a shape. A shadow, darker than the dark itself. It didn't move, but its head slowly tilted, like it knew I was watching. Then the feed cut off. I jumped out of bed, ran to the hallway, but when I opened the door, nothing. Just that same heavy air, that same faint scent of wet wood and rot. By the 5th night, I stopped pretending it was my imagination. I sprinkled salt at the door, left a cross under the pillow, even whispered prayers I hadn't said in years. But at 3:12 a.m., it returned. The steps were faster this time, like it was running toward my room, and right before the door handle turned, everything went silent, completely silent. Not even my clock ticked, just this still, frozen air, as if the house was holding its breath. Then, let me in. That was when I realized it didn't want to hurt me. It wanted to be me. Because that night, when I finally dared to look in the mirror, my reflection blinked. A second later than I did. I couldn't sleep that night. Every shadow in my room seemed heavier than usual. Every creak of the house sharper, more purposeful. I told myself to stay calm, rationalize. It's just my mind playing tricks. But I knew better. I felt it watching me, long before I even moved from the bed. Step, 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 slow, deliberate, closer than last night. I grabbed the flashlight. Its beam was weak, flickering like it was afraid too. I forced my legs to move, to follow the sound. The hallway stretched longer than ever, shadows pooling unnaturally at the corners, bending as if they had their own gravity. The front door, locked, bolted, barred, was ajar again. I froze. My stomach turned. Every instinct screamed at me, "Don't open it." I inched closer anyway, heart hammering, breath shallow. The air was colder than anything I'd ever felt. I could see my breath curl like smoke in the beam of the flashlight. Then, a shape emerged, not fully human, not fully shadowed, something in between, limbs too long, body stretched unnaturally, eyes like pits of black fire. And it watched me, watching me like it had been waiting my entire life. I stumbled back, tripping over the rug. The flashlight slipped from my fingers, clattering across the floor. It skittered to the edge of the hallway, illuminating part of the creature, just enough to see its jagged outline, twisting and writhing like smoke caught in a storm. Step, 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 closer. I reached for it, rational thought gone, replaced by panic. "Who are you?" I whispered, voice barely audible. The shape shifted. Not toward me, not away. It mirrored me. Every movement I made, it did too. I raised my hands, so did it. I blinked. It blinked slower. I took a step forward. It hesitated just enough to make my heart lurch. Then it spoke, not with words, but with feeling. A cold, invasive knowledge seeped into my mind. "You shouldn't be here." "You're mine!" I stumbled backward into the living room. The furniture reacted before I could even register it. Chairs toppled, the rug curled, pictures fell. My own reflection in the tall mirror across the room. It wasn't me anymore. It grinned, slowly, maliciously. Step, 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 closer. I could feel it in my chest now, heavy, pressing down, like the air itself had weight. The whispers came again, this time mocking, repeating my own fears. "You can't run. You can't hide. You are mine." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was dry, my voice stolen. The shadow moved closer with deliberate patience, never rushing, always calculating. Every instinct in my body screamed to flee, but the house seemed to trap me in place, walls bending, shadows stretching. Time itself feels wrong. I remembered the old stories I had scoffed at. Previous tenants, sudden disappearances, footsteps at 3 a.m., people feeling watched. I had laughed, until now. Every legend was true, and I was living it. I backed into the hallway mirror, staring at the creature's reflection. It didn't match reality. Limbs bent the wrong way, eyes hollow, but aware. It mimicked me again, slow, deliberate, and cruel. My heart raced faster than my breath, faster than my legs could move. I noticed movement behind it, shadows peeling away from the corners, forming shapes, faint humanoid figures that didn't belong. They moved with the entity, circling me, whispering, waiting. Step, step, step. Closer, closer. I realized then that it didn't just want to scare me. It wanted something more sinister. It wanted to become part of me, to invade my thoughts, my reflexes, my mind. That's why it mirrored me. That's why it waited. It wasn't just outside. It was inside, learning me, testing me, preparing. I stumbled toward the stairs. My flashlight flickered back on, casting weak light over the twisted shapes. A chair flew past my head, narrowly missing me. A book crashed into the wall. The entity stopped, observing, measuring, patient. And then it tilted its head like a predator, just slightly. A subtle, bone-chilling movement that made every nerve in my body scream. The whispers surged, louder now, incoherent, but clear in their intent. You cannot escape. You will belong. 3 a.m. I ran, step, 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 closer. Every hallway seemed longer, every shadow deeper. The entity followed, but it didn't chase in the usual sense. It anticipated, mirrored, and manipulated the very environment to trap me. And then, at the top of the stairs, I caught a glimpse in the corner of my eye, something that wasn't supposed to exist, something human, and yet not. It vanished before I could stare, leaving only the sound of its laughter, or maybe mine, echoing down the empty hall. I realized this was far from over. I was awake, alone, but no longer safe, and the house, the entity, it knew it. Step, 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 closer, closer. It happened faster than I could even process. 1 second, I was running through the hallway, trying to escape the entity that mirrored me at every step. The next, everything changed. The house itself seemed to awaken. Lights exploded in blinding flashes, flickering with violent intensity, throwing jagged, surreal shadows across the walls. Chairs slammed to the floor. A vase flew past my head, shattering against the wall. My flashlight spun wildly, casting beams that revealed movement, too fast, too wrong to be human. And then I saw it. Not fully, but enough. A figure, tall, malformed, draped in darkness that didn't obey the light. Its head tilted at an impossible angle, eyes glowing like coals, burning straight into my chest. It didn't walk. It glided, or rather, reality itself seemed to bend around it, bending to its will. Step, 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 closer. Objects reacted before I could even move. Books, plates, chairs, even the grandfather clock, all obeyed its presence, flying, crashing, spinning in midair as though gravity itself was broken. The room was in chaos. My heart raced so fast, I felt it in my throat. I tried to scream. My voice refused. My legs wouldn't move. Every shadow in the room stretched toward me, curling, reaching, twisting with a life of its own. Step, 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 closer, closer. The whispers returned, not faint this time, but deafening, omnipresent. They weren't words. They were my thoughts repeated, distorted, mocking. You cannot escape. You are mine. You will belong. I dropped to my knees, trembling uncontrollably. My hands clawed at the floor, desperate to anchor myself to reality. I felt its presence, cold, heavy, and invasive. It pressed into my chest, into my mind, like an invisible weight I could not shake. And then, it mirrored me. Every panic, every terrified gesture, every tremor, reflected perfectly back at me in a grotesque, exaggerated version. My own fear had become its form. I wanted to fight. I wanted to run, but my body refused. It wasn't just the entity controlling space around me. It was inside me, shaping my reality, bending my senses, twisting my perception of time. Seconds stretched into eternities. Step, 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 closer, closer. A chair slammed into the wall behind me. A picture frame flew past my face. The walls of my living room, no, the entire house, seemed to shift, stretching, folding in ways impossible, trapping me in a labyrinth that moved with the entity's will. I caught glimpses, faint, fleeting, of its full form. Limbs too long, head tilted at impossible angles, shadowy wings. Or were they extensions of its darkness? It didn't fully reveal itself. Just enough to make my mind scream in terror. Step, step, step. And then it came closer. Closer than I thought possible. I could feel it in my bones. The air was solid, thick, crushing. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. I wanted to fight, to resist, but my own body betrayed me. And then, silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. I dared to move my eyes. The entity was inches away. I could see it. Blurred edges, impossible angles, darkness that devoured light. It mimicked my posture, crouching as I crouched, reaching as I reached. Every instinct screamed run, but I couldn't. Step, step, step closer. It whispered my name, my true name, in a voice that was mine, but warped, hollow, empty. You are mine, it hissed, and I felt my mind twist under its gaze. I tried to fight back. I shouted, "Leave me alone," but the words sounded like echoes bouncing off invisible walls. I tried to grab anything to defend myself, a chair, a lamp, but my hands passed through the objects as if the world itself was unstable. Step, step, step. The entity loomed over me, gliding, stretching, shifting. The shadows swirled around it, forming faint humanoid shapes, watching, circling, waiting. My own reflection in the mirror. It smiled. My face twisted in terror. My reflection grinned back, exaggerating every detail. Step, step, step. Closer, closer. I could feel it probing my mind, examining my fears, testing me, consuming my sanity one heartbeat at a time. The house had become its vessel, its playground, its trap. I was not merely haunted. I was hunted. Then, a sudden rush. The air slammed into me like a physical force, knocking me to the floor. Objects flew, books, plates, chairs, creating a storm of chaos. Shadows converged, swirling, twisting, growing, pressing in. Whispers rose to a deafening crescendo, vibrating through my chest and skull. Step, step, step. And then, nothing. Silence. I dared to lift my head. The figure had vanished, or almost. Just a faint shimmer in the corner of the room. Watching. Waiting. The house was still. The shadows had returned to the corners. But I knew it had retreated only to prepare. Patient. Eternal. And I was trapped in its domain. Step. 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 Closer. Closer. The house was silent. Too silent. Every crash, every echo, every whisper, every footstep had stopped. Or at least, I wanted to believe so. I sank to the floor in the center of the living room, chest heaving, my hands shaking, staring at the chaos around me. Chairs overturned, vases shattered. Shadows clung stubbornly to corners, as if reluctant to leave. I told myself it was over. The entity had retreated. The house had delivered its warning. And spared me. Maybe. But deep down, I knew better. I could feel it, lingering just beyond sight, patient and deliberate, watching me like a predator sizing up its prey. I gathered my courage, slowly rising to my feet. Every step echoed through the empty halls. The floorboards groaned beneath me, as if protesting my escape. I moved toward the front door, testing the locks, checking the windows. Flicking the light switches one by one, I prayed that stability would return. The lights flickered briefly, a last warning, before settling into steady illumination. For a fleeting moment, I felt safe. Almost. Packing a small bag in silence, I tried to avoid any sudden noise. But the house, it was alive. I could feel it studying me, observing my fear, testing my resolve. Shadows twisted unnaturally at the edges of my vision, and for a heartbeat, I froze. Expecting the entity to appear. But it didn't. At least, not yet. I stepped outside into the crisp night air, breathing in the darkness as if it could wash away what I'd experienced. I didn't look back. I moved quickly, every instinct screaming to put as much distance as possible between me and that house. That night, I became a refugee from fear itself. I moved into a new apartment. I told myself it was over, that the house, the shadows, the entity were behind me. But sometimes, in the stillness of night, I hear it. Footsteps. Faint at first, almost imperceptible, then unmistakable. Step, step, step closer, closer. It's always at 3 a.m., and it's never just outside the house anymore. Sometimes it's outside my bedroom door. Sometimes it's just beyond my hearing, testing me, patient and deliberate. I live alone, yet I feel the presence. Watching, waiting, listening. It knows I hear it. It knows I fear it. And it enjoys that. Occasionally, I catch a glimpse, a shadow flickering across the wall, a shape too tall, too wrong to be human. It doesn't walk. It glides. It watches. It waits. And every time I think I've escaped, every time I convince myself it was just imagination, the footsteps return. Step. Step, step, closer, closer. I've tried to rationalize it. Old houses, echoes, dreams, stress. Maybe it's all in my mind. But my body remembers. The icy chill of the cold spots, the whispers that repeated my own fears, the objects flying across the room, the way it mirrored me perfectly. My mind may doubt it, but my body never forgets. And that's the real terror. Some presences don't vanish with daylight. They wait, they watch. They are patient, eternal. And when the clock strikes 3 a.m., they make themselves known. So now, when the silence hits, when the world sleeps, I sit quietly, heart hammering, waiting. Sometimes I hear it, sometimes I don't, but I know, without a doubt, that it is still there. Step, 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 closer, closer. And when you hear your own house settle tonight, or the faint echo of a footstep that isn't yours, remember me. Remember the fear that won't let go, because some things are patient, and some things never leave. Step, step, step. If this story made your heart race, smash that like button. Let me know you survived, or didn't. Have you ever heard footsteps in the dead of night when no one should be there? Comment below and share your own chilling encounters. I want to hear your story. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you can join our community of brave souls and never miss a terrifying story. And if you know someone who sleeps with the light off, share this video with them. If they dare, remember, the footsteps are always listening.